Hello, hello. Let's turn up all our volumes. And this is my last podcast for the year. It's the last day of the year. And this is the time when I usually do questions. Oh, my shirt comes from Puffy Pillows and Things. Be the change. You see the quotation who it's from? There you go. For those listening, you can't. You gotta watch the videos. You gotta go to my Patreon. You gotta go. Sorry. But Puffy Pillows and Things. Go to that on Instagram and look at their stuff. Really good stuff. Anyway, this is the time when I answer questions, but you haven't sent me any questions, so we're going to deal with questions that are out there just in general. What's going to happen in 2024? Make some predictions. I don't think these will be difficult. I think if you're realistic and you're looking at the society, you see that it has collapsed. It collapsed 3 years ago, officially. It was collapsing before that. And now they've been building it back up. There's problems because you have different factions in the ruling class who want to build it different ways. It's a large enough society you can break it up and have three different societies, 4 different societies. That's what empires do when they die. They fall apart and become separate entities. All the people who were once separate entities become separate entities. In the United States, that would mean each state can become its own nation. The same way Italy and Greece and England and Paris and France and all of those places are now separate places. And you know for sure that Italy and Greece and all these places were part of the Roman Empire. Now they're separate countries. Okay. I don't know if that's going to happen next year. I don't know if that's where we're going to end up. But that's one of the options on the table. So 2024 is a very political year. So it's a presidential election. Now, I don't care about candidates. I look at the concepts and the factions of the ruling class that they represent. Biden represents a part of the ruling class that wants things to go back to some kind of old way or the way it's been going, status quo. As you can see, that's dead. It's so dead that they're in the White House and still can't convince people that we should keep going this way. So dead that between the president and vice president, they're so empty. Between the two of them, they can't muster up enough to equal one regular person, in the sense that they can't get us to believe in any of them. When you hear people say, oh, Biden's not going to run, they look for the governor of Michigan, they look for the governor of California, they skip right over Kamala because she's empty. And if they had listened and picked Stacey Abrams or had picked the governor of Michigan before, which I had said, they wouldn't be in this position. They could use Stacey Abrams and get 4 more years of status quo. Eventually, status quo is going to be replaced, but they could have gotten 4 more years. She knows how to do that and manipulate people to do that. But they went with Kamala. Empty and empty. That's what you got. Empty Joe, empty Kamala. So that faction is losing. There's another faction who wants things to go back to a kind of Eurocentric, white nationalist society. And that could be possible. Although I will say that there's so many different kinds of people in this country. Even in the South and the Midwest, we think that just in the Northeast you have different types of people. A couple of years ago, I was in Columbia, South Carolina, and there's all kinds of Latinos, all kinds of African, all kinds of Caribbean down there. I was actually shocked that a lot of Africans were down there. Not that it's not a climate they would go to, but that the white folks in South Carolina would allow Africans to come. Interesting. So you have a whole lot of that going on. But there's a lot of people who want to go back to separate kinds of societies. And for the most part, the United States is still separate and unequal. So, I mean, it's been that way. When you start digging on the surface, they might have fixed some things, some cracks, some leaks, but when a pipe has holes in it, putting clay in it or Flex Seal or something like that is one thing. Replacing the pipe is another thing, and it's time to replace things. So if we put in a new kind of society where they're separate, then that means that the country will break up, and probably the Confederate States will probably break off and become an actual country again, and the Union States will become another one. I don't know what the Western world would do. Some of them might side with the Confederate States. Some of them might, side with us. So that faction is big. That's Trump and his people. They're winning right now. But there is a larger faction of people who don't want either. And Cornel West, I would even say De La Cruz, RFK, they represent, there's a big faction there that represents that we need to lean toward humanity again. We need to lean toward justice. We need to, and don't forget, there's the tech ruling class, the new tech billionaires, the ruling class. They have a different vision of view of the future. You could put them in with that Cornel West and them represent that group. That's why Cornel West was in the Matrix. They believe in, they have a lot of those kinds of notions. Humanism, post-humanism, right? Merging humans with tech completely. So they see a different kind of future. And that's the faction that I'm rooting for. That other faction that wants to see reduced military. Basically, you shrinking the empire down back to just a nation state. A nation state is still going to be an empire because you got separate nations inside the nation, but shrinking it down. So with the tech, you don't need militaries. As a matter of fact, everything's so digital, including our money and our societies is so digitally connected that to go to war against another society like in World War II would destroy everything and wouldn't really make sense. Oligarchs would never go to war with each other. For example, as much as we talk about Putin, Russian oligarchs are doing business in the United States, and the United States oligarchs are doing business in Russia right now. So, I mean, yes, they're fighting against Ukraine, but that's it. We don't need 850 military bases. We're connected in ways that if you really wanted to harm a person, you can do it technologically. That's why it's so silly what Israel's doing. I don't understand what they're doing. That doesn't make sense. But even if you look at that, it's a small spot. And if you pay attention, the rest of the Middle East hasn't really gotten sucked into that. Because again, why would Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt, and all those people fight the United States? There's oligarchs there doing business here. We're doing business there. And unfortunately, that's how the ruling class are a lot closer to each other and bound to each other. And that's what matters. We could have had societies run by the masses, but we don't want it. We don't want it. We had a chance, and we couldn't do it. We couldn't get enough people to do it. So then I'll be paying attention to which faction of the ruling class is winning. I'll be pushing for that Cornel West, that RFK, that here's a name, Mark Cuban. Matter of fact, don't be surprised if Mark Cuban is running for president on the Democratic ticket. So that group is the Andrew Yang group. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's Mark Cuban, Andrew Yang against Trump and whoever. And if that's the ticket on the Democratic side, it's going to be a landslide. They're going to destroy Trump and his people, because what comes with Mark Cuban and Andrew Yang and all that? We see more and more layoffs every day, and I do mean every day. A UBI comes with them. That right there is going to get you 60% of the country. The people who will love ethnic things want Andrew Yang to be in the White House. That's going to get you that portion of people. Then you're going to have people who believe in entrepreneurship and all of that. That's going to get you those kind of people. And I just think that it's going to be something like that. That faction is the faction I'm going to be with, because that's what I need for stability. As a black man, when that was left out of all kinds of structures and systems, now that they're dead, I don't have the resources. My community doesn't have the resources. We've been blocked from the resources to move ahead in any kind of way, to move ahead and build new things. So everybody's building new all around us, but we're trying, but we don't have the resources. That's why reparations talk is so large, because they're trying to get us to get some resources to get ourselves together, because we're in a bottomless pit and we're falling psychologically, emotionally, and every other way. So that's what I think is going to happen. And if that happens, if that faction of the ruling class wins, the ones that wants to reset everything, to say, hey, man, and some people hate this. Some people on the left say, well, they're just going to give you $1,200 a month and throw you in the corner somewhere, and that's going to be it. I understand what they're saying. That's not really the greatest solution. We should have a more humane solution. We should have a more sane social structure, but they got to understand there's a lot of people out here who are good people who are unstable. And if it's going to be $1,200 or $1,400 a month, or if it's going to be $1,400 a quarter, $300 a month for each child you have, we're going to take it, and then maybe we can do something with it. Because if I can put my $1,400 with another person's $1,400, we can live, we can survive, we can make it. There's going to be a lot of housing vouchers. Real estate is going to be something. It won't be government owned and managed, but the government will give you the voucher, and you'll take it around to private landlords, and you'll give it. I know this because I know someone who's in real estate in the Midwest, and she says, yeah, big companies are buying all of these properties, all of these rental properties, all of these homes. And I also follow, the financial news and things like that. And what this person tells me is they're preparing for the voucher programs. So all these big companies that is it Blackstone? I forget which one it is, but there's a few of them across the country. And they own properties across the country, and they're getting ready for that. So the government will probably be doing a lot of vouchers next year to stop the houselessness home epidemic, the eviction home epidemic that's getting ready to start. We may have another health epidemic, and they'll use it like they used the last one. We'll have a shutdown and all of that kind of stuff. I know people are starting to wear masks more here in New York. There's a lot of people catching flus and all kinds of things. The deaths from COVID numbers are still the same. It's funny how it's not an epidemic anymore, but the numbers are still the same. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that. Sounds like a bunch of BS to me. Either it was BS then, or it's BS now. If it was an epidemic then, it is still an epidemic. If it's not an epidemic now, then it never was, and it was something you used to push a policy. Not to say that we lost a lot of people, lost a lot of good people too. It seems like good people die and assholes stick around forever. But maybe that's just me looking in, like, from where I'm looking. Maybe that's just the way it seems. Because we're losing a lot of people. Lost a lot of people to COVID. And health, what would you say? Illnesses and health degeneration, right? Health regressions. We lost a lot of people to that. So I think that's what's going to happen. The Connerson Center is going well. The other business I have is still moving, it's going along. I've created new products for that. I never mix the two because I don't want my politics in here to harm the other one. But the Connerson Center is in full swing with publishing. I got to publish new books, new editions of The Daily Grind and Womb, War on Mental Blight, which is a new book that I'm offering. I have to publish them tonight, put them on the site, make some ads and everything. So that's all I had to say for this podcast. I'll see you tomorrow with another read. I don't know what book I'm going to be reading from. Maybe I'll read from this. I have to hand this in soon. But maybe I'll read from this and then just hand it in this week. African American Poetry, 250 Years of Struggle. I was going to do a class from some of these, but I'm doing the same types of class over and over, so I'm just putting up some of my old classes. So yeah, I'll read from this. Read some poems. So I'll read some poems tomorrow. Start the year light, although poetry could be heavy. So we'll do that. I want to wish you all a happy new year. It's been tough for me, but then there's been some good things too. It's been some struggle, but we've come through. And we all come through another year. 2024 is going to be an exciting year. I wish you all the best. I wish you all happiness, peace, health, and protection. And until next time, take care of yourselves. Be safe. You know how to support me if you want. And let's support each other more 2024. Take care.